Use cases analysis. Requirements elicitation using use cases and scenarios is one of the key elicitation and business analysis technique prescribed by BIABOK. Section 9.26 in BIABOK 2.0 describes this technique. Use cases describe how an actor interacts with a solution to accomplish one or more of its goals. Well-written use cases are great tools to clarify scope and provide an understanding of the user's behavioral goals, normal situations, alternatives or exception paths through an activity or business process. This video will demonstrate how use case elements can be captured using Enterprise Architect and how to leverage the powerful structured scenario editor feature of Enterprise Architect to utilize the information captured in use case scenarios for further analysis and testing. We will look at importing use case elements from word processors and spreadsheets. And also be looking, with an example use case on how to capture the rules, preconditions, postcondition and scenarios of a use case. We will be looking at how the basic, alternate and exception paths of a use case element is captured using the structured scenario editor in Enterprise Architect. Then we will look at how the scenario editor will help analysts build traceability between various other model artifacts like requirements, user interface prototypes, logical data elements, etc. to these scenarios. Once the information is captured in a structured manner in Enterprise Architect, we will be looking at how to leverage the power of visualizations in here to generate diagrams from the modal use case. Then we will look at how this information can also be used to generate test case stubs, which will give testers a great starting point to start building their test plans, with complete traceability between the test cases and other project artifacts. Then we will look at the important aspect of generating documents out of these captured information based on the customizable templates in Enterprise Architect. In documentation we will be looking at how to create a complete use case documentation, how to generate documentation for a specific subset of use case elements, say those that were deployed as part of version 3.0. How to analyze the use cases used by a particular actor and generate documentation from those elements, and how to build an impact analysis view from a single starting point and generating a documentation from it. Finally, we will look at how to utilize all the available information to do precise project estimations using the use case point-based project estimation in Enterprise Architect. Use case element in Enterprise Architect, according to UML notations, is represented as an oval element as shown in the diagram. A use case element's properties window can be used to add the required metadata like name, description, version, phase and so on. The tag values property sheet of the use case element allows users to add custom properties that are required for a specific project or a program. The example here shows two custom properties, namely, the client sign-off required, which is a Boolean property to indicate true or false, and the project name property, which is a drop-down combo allowing users to choose the project the use case belongs to. The Requirements tab under the Rules section of the use case element allows users to capture the business rules pertaining to a particular use case. This rule can then be created as a project requirement by using the Move External option. The Constraints tab allows users to define the preconditions and postconditions related to the use case or a use case scenario step. The Scenarios tab of the use case element allows users to capture the scenarios in a free text form or in a more structured manner using the structured scenarios editor. This also allows one to add the alternate paths, exception paths, context references and much more. We will look at how to create use case elements in the model. A use case element can be created by simply dragging and dropping a use case from the toolbox, or using the context-based toolbox menu. You can also use the quick linker to create an element and a connector instantly. You can then use Ctrl+Click to repeat the lastly created element. Use the layout tools available in Enterprise Architect to lay out the created elements and also add interrelationships as required. The use case elements can also be imported from spreadsheets. The CSV importer of Enterprise Architect allows users to define a specification and import their existing use case elements. Common properties like name, type, notes, version, phase, etc. can be mapped directly to the Enterprise Architect fields. But if your existing document contains properties that are not included in the standard metadata, you can import them as tagged values, which is the mechanism used in Enterprise Architect to define and capture custom properties. Once the specification is set, you can run the importer to import the use case elements. The elements added to the model can be noticed in the project browser. These elements can then be added to diagrams as usual and associated with other existing model elements. Next, we will look at how to reuse the contents in a word processor like MS Word to create use case elements in Enterprise Architect. The document here shows a list of use case elements, with their names and description. You can create corresponding use case elements in Enterprise Architect by just selecting the use case element text, and dragging and dropping onto a use case diagram in Enterprise Architect. You can see the use case element's name and description being applied appropriately in the created element. One can also import use case elements from XML files. Teams usually create a library of use case elements which can be reused with minor variations and other similar projects. XML Import Wizard is used to import model information from other XML tools or XML exported from a different Enterprise Architect project. This creates the set of use cases along with their interrelationships with other elements, and all the properties associated with it. To quickly reuse the information within a model, one can also use Ctrl-C to copy a package and Ctrl-V to create a copy of the original information. The XML compliance enables Enterprise Architect to allow lossless exchange of model information from other XML-compliant modeling tools. We will now look at how to create a use case model in Enterprise Architect using an online bookstore example. Please note that the other project information like the requirements, logical element, user interfaces has been already captured in the model. The traceability window shows the interdependencies of the create account use case element in the model, like its association to the AI prototype. We will now be deleting this element from the model and recreating it based on the use case documentation currently available in a Word document. The Word document contains all details like the use cases, actors, pre- and post-conditions, scenarios, and even the acceptance criterion for each step. Starting by firstly creating the element in the model, and adding the association to the client. You can notice that the newly added element does not have any relationship with other project artifacts yet. The Properties window of the use case element, as discussed earlier, has dedicated tabs to capture the rules, constraints and scenarios. Firstly, add the precondition and postcondition to the create account use case element. Then to add scenarios in a structured manner, switch to Scenarios tab, and navigate to the Structured Scenarios editor. Enterprise Architect will automatically add known contextual references to text as you type, like the one for client, where the client is the actual actor in a model and used in various other diagrams. Here we also notice that I typed in use case without a space. These inconsistencies can be avoided by using the IntelliSense information in Enterprise Architect. You can also create steps automatically from clipboard text by using the Create Structure from Clipboard Text option, like we do for steps 3 onwards. Contextual references are automatically added even to the created steps. The steps are automatically assigned as user step or system step, but it can be changed by simply double-clicking on the icon. Now we will add the alternate path corresponding to step 6, where the user can click cancel or exit without pressing submit, in which instance the use case terminates with no action taken. We notice that the alternate path is added corresponding to step 6 and is expected to end the flow. Next, the validation fails alternate path, which is expected to highlight the invalid fields and return back to step 2 as modeled. You can choose where the alternate flow is expected to join by choosing from the drop-down. The exception path for database fail is added in the same manner, but choosing exception path and keying in the steps. Let's also add the acceptance criteria given for each of these steps. These are captured in the results column. Adding it for steps 1, 2 and 4. One can also insert or establish relationships to other model elements, like it is done to associate step 2 with the actual requirement pertaining to it. The relationship can also be created to other model elements like the user interface dialogues. To add context reference for the typed and free text, select the text for which context reference is to be added and use the Insert Context Reference option, like it is done for Submit button. We can also link the step to actual data elements captured in the model, like it is done for Account class. You can notice how all other references to account are automatically added appropriate context references. Now that the information is captured in a structured manner, we will look at how to leverage the visualization, test generation and documentation capabilities of Enterprise Architect. The steps captured in the structured scenario editor can be used to auto-generate visual representations, which can be used for showcase, feedback and review. To emphasize the benefit, let's introduce a minor discrepancy in the scenario step and generate activity diagrams from these steps. The generated activity diagram can be visually analyzed to understand the expected behavior. Now we realize that on failing validation tests the use case should return back to step 2 instead of terminating. We do this change in the diagram. The updated diagram can be reverse engineered to update the originally captured steps using the Create Structure from Activity Graph option. Notice how the validation fails scenario now joins at step 2. Next, we will try generating test cases out of this comprehensive structured information captured thus far using the Generate Internal Test Case capability. This adds the test cases and shows in the testing window, which is used to maintain and manage test cases in Enterprise Architect. The test cases includes the steps along with the contextual references that were set in the use case scenarios. It also links to the actual requirements, which are expected to be satisfied, offering the complete end-to-end traceability. The test cases also include references to logical data elements, user interface prototypes, like the traceability to the new user dialog from this test case. These test case stubs can then be used as starting points for creating test plans. Let's add a test case element and associate it with a use case element. We can then move the test cases originally created by Enterprise Architect to the test case element, which will be created as new test with status set to not run and provisioned to capture test results, last run date, and tester details. The test cases can be then used to quickly generate a test report. We are using the predefined testing template to generate a test report from these test cases. We looked at how use case elements are modeled in Enterprise Architect, how the interdependencies are set on the flow, how the visualization features can be used, and how to generate and use test cases. We will now look at how all these information can be exported as documents within a matter of few clicks. Let's start by generating a document for the use case element we just created, the Create Account use case, based on one of the customized templates previously created. See how all the details in the model are exported in the generated report. The report also includes references to alternate flows and exception flows. Next, to generate a complete use case documentation, we just have to choose the top-level package, which contains all the use cases, use the same template and generate a document. The generated document, as shown, contains all the use case elements with the appropriate actors, diagrams and detailed model information. We will now look at how to choose a subset of elements and generate a documentation. The use cases as shown in the version breakup diagram were released as part of versions 1.0 to 4.0. Now, we need to generate a document on just those use case elements that were delivered in version 3.0. To do that, we use the model search capability of Enterprise Architect and use the query builder to search for the required subset of elements. Then the subset can be reported using the same procedure using the customized use case document template as shown. Another common scenario is to generate a document with use cases related to a particular actor. We notice how the client here uses a couple of use cases which were deployed in different versions. Using the Insert Related Elements dialog, we can insert all the associated use cases onto a diagram. Once this is done, switching to List View enables you to select the elements and generate a documentation. The generated document, based on the predefined template, contains only those elements that are related to the actor. Finally, we will look at how to build an impact analysis diagram in Enterprise Architect and generate a documentation from it. Let's analyze the impact of changing the use case element we just added. Insert the element into the diagram using the Insert Existing Element option. Then use the Insert Related Elements dialog to insert all the first-level associated elements onto the diagram. We can then build the impact analysis diagram by picking any associated elements and inserting its related elements. To generate a documentation out of this view, all we do is to generate a report from this diagram on the previously customized template, and you get the impact analysis document in a matter of few minutes. Lastly, with all such extensive information captured in the model, it becomes quite intuitive to be able to estimate the project cost and time based on these information. The use case points-based estimation technique used in Enterprise Architect allows you to do those estimations instantly. For example, in the Fulfill Orders package, which is expected to be delivered in version 4.0, we set the complexity of the use case elements to easy, medium or difficult. Once this information is captured, the use case points-based estimation techniques, which already contains the previously defined technical complexity factors and environmental complexity factors, can do the estimation. The only required inputs are the duration that is expected to implement a use case point and the average cost per hour. The more accurate the duration factor is, the more accurate the estimation will be. One can quickly generate a report on the estimation by clicking the Report button. The generated report contains the factors that were considered in the estimation. To calculate for a different set of use cases, you just have to select the appropriate package and recalculate. Thus, we looked at how Enterprise Architect can facilitate effective use case analysis and greatly help analysts capture the full picture using the structured scenarios and use the information for feedback, testing, documentation and estimation. Thanks for listening to this demonstration. If you require any specific topic to be addressed in subsequent videos, please email to info@sparxsystems.in.